welcome to the press conference. It's said that music gives wing to the mind, flight to the imagination, and soul to the universe, and life to everything. And today we have a group of directors and actors who have given the power of music to their films. And they are the directors, Mr. Kaveh Nabatian, Miss Ariane Lorrain, Mr. Juan Andrés Arango, and actors Mr. Jérôme Pouliot of the movie The Seven Last Words, and Miss Eva Cools, the director of Belgian movie Clio. I welcome you all to the press conference. Now let's begin with Cleo. Cleo is the debut feature film of director Eva Cools. It's about a 16-year-old girl who survives a traumatic accident, and the music plays a crucial part in Cleo's process of rebuilding herself. The movie is competing for the Centenary Award for the Best Debut Feature Film and also the prestigious UNESCO Gandhi Medal. And about Eva Cools, she's a Flemish screenwriter and film director. She has directed 4 short films which have been nominated and awarded at various film festivals at home and abroad, including Women's Independent Film Festival in Hollywood, where her short film won 4 prizes. Ms. Eva Cools, I request you to tell us more about your movie.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Well, so my film is Cleo. As I was introduced, so the film talks about a 17-year-old girl who loses her parents in a car accident, in a hit-and-run car accident. That's one of the main topics of the movie, how to cope with grief when you lose some relatives in an accident and there are no answers to it because the perpetrator, he flew. And at the same time, it's also a movie that talks about hope. It's a war movie. It's because music is a very important part of the movie, especially the music of classical componist Rachmaninoff. Because Cleo, she plays the piano, and this is for her the way to overcome her grief. She finds a lot of relief and comfort in the classical music, and that's why I wanted to make this film. I hope that it's a universal film that everyone can rely on. And yeah, it's also a personal film because I lost somebody in a car accident, and that's why I thought it was important to tell this story. The film is having his Asian premiere here, so I'm super happy to be here for the first time in India at this great festival. And we had a premiere about 1 month ago. We went to the Ghent Film Festival. The film went to the Rome Film Festival and to Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival. So this is the 4th film festival of the movie.
Thank you. Now we go to The Seven Last Words. The movie is a very different one. It's based on the 7 themes particular to humanity expressed in a musical composition again. Forgiveness, salvation, relationship, abandonment, distress, triumph, and reunion. This film was selected for the International Film Festival Rotterdam 2019. Now, 7 award-winning Canadian filmmakers of diverse origins and art practices have come together to make this movie. We have the main director, Mr. Kaveh Nabatian here. He's also done the screenplay for this movie. He's made many fiction films, music videos, television series, and feature-length documentaries all over the world. And he has a number of awards to his credit. We also have Miss Ariane Lorrain. She's also the director. And she's a documentary filmmaker of Iranian and Canadian origins based in Montreal. Her mid-length documentary won the prize of Best Canadian Short or Medium-Length Film at Montreal Film Festival. And Mr. Juan Andrés Arango, his debut feature film, La Playa DC, premiered at the 2012 Cannes Film Festival and was selected as a Colombian entry for the Best Foreign Language Film at the 86th Academy Awards. And we also have the actor, Mr. Jérôme Pouliot, with us today. Now, I request Mr. Nabatian, please tell us more about your movie. It seems that there has a new, it opens a new dialogue between film and music. So we would like to listen to that.
Yeah, well, so the origin of the film is that I'm a musician as well, and I was working with a string quartet that I met at a residency in Banff in Canada, and they're an Irish English quartet, and they introduced me to a lot of string quartet music that I'd never heard before. It was never something I really had my radar on, and I started composing for string quartets, and I just got into that whole style of music. And I was visiting them once, and the cellist was telling me how she wanted to make an album of the seven last words of Christ by Joseph Haydn, which is this very beautiful series of sonatas. And she was telling me how historically those sonatas have been performed in interesting ways, and that there's all this art around the idea of the seven last words of Jesus. And what was interesting to me was how these words and how this music is so universal. Like the act of a man facing his mortality has nothing to do with Christianity, really. It's something that anybody can relate to. And so I got this idea to make a seven-part film to go along with the seven sonatas, and to have seven different directors from different origins and art practices and religions and cultures, have each person make a film out of one of the sonatas. And that's what we did. And just to be clear, I only wrote the screenplay for the films that I did as part of the Seven Last Words. Each director had carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, and so the film ends up being this very diverse experience that goes from Iran to Haiti to Colombia, and what ties it all together really is the music. There's no dialogue in the film, and even though the images are quite different one from the other, the fact that it's told through music, I think, unifies it into a pretty intense experience. Last night we had our screening here, and it was wonderful, and some people were very, very emotional about it, and it was a beautiful thing, actually.
Thank you, Mr. Nabatian. Anyone else from your team would like to add something about it? And after that, we can go to the media.
Yes, I like to say that the film was a wonderful experience to shoot. Precisely for the reason that Kaveh mentioned, we had complete freedom to react in a very personal way to what this specific word meant to us. And since we were shooting with no sound, as the film was going to be played with the music, we could shoot with a very small team that gives a great liberty and a great intimacy to the act of shooting. So for me, it was a very refreshing experience to be able to shoot in this very personal way.
Yeah, I guess in terms of visual storytelling, this was a very interesting project to work on. And the fact that the films are shot in all these different places, we only had the theme and the music as guiding threads to write each our own stories, our visual stories. And there, the music is really our guiding thread and a tool for expressing emotion. And it's an abstract language, but a universal language. And I hope that's what publics all around can understand and feel.
Hi. I have to say, for me as an actor, that was a huge challenge for me. That was a big challenge because it was without sound. So Juan told me that I have to express myself without words. So that was a good experience for me. So, and I learned a lot from that for the movie. So I think for my career also, it was a good challenge and something that I could do about. And just, yeah, my roles I speak usually, but for this movie, that was a good experience. So, yeah.
Thank you. Now the floor is open for questions.
Challenging, but how tough was it for you? Was it very, very tough? You said challenging, but how challenging was it?
Yeah, good question. I have to say that the funniest thing behind all of that is that while we were shooting a movie, I've been sick because there was 12 hours on a boat, and I didn't know that I could be sick with that. And it was funny, but for the emotions too, because I played someone who was depressed about he didn't talk to his mother anymore, and to know that I was on a boat for 12 hours, I was sick, and I had to act. That was a great challenge for me because I was like, I need to prove that I can be a good actor. And I remember while I was sick, Juan was like, would you like to take a break? And I was like, no, let's continue. And I was ready to do everything. So yeah, that was a big part of the challenge for this movie. So I was proud of it.
Something about the title of the film. Something to elaborate on the title.
Well, it's based on the composition by Joseph Haydn, which is called the Seven Last Words of Christ, Opus 51. So we just called it the Seven Last Words because that's what it is.
Any specific reason for you to take people from different, but 7 of them are there.
Mm-hmm.
So was there any specific reason you chose 7 different directors?
Well, yeah, because I mean, at its base, it is a religious text. But what was interesting to me was not so much the religious aspect. It was more interesting to me the idea of a man facing his mortality, and so that's such a universal subject that I wanted to make sure that it didn't all. At the very beginning, I was actually thinking I would direct all 7 myself, but that would have been just one person's perspective, and it was important for me, and I think for the music as well, to have different perspectives that didn't all come from the same place. Exactly, yeah.
Any questions?
But they all came from different temperaments. How do you manage to get them together? Different temperaments. Each one has a different temperament. You have seven people with different kind of thinking, and putting together a project like this must have been very tough. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, it took forever to get it together for sure. And there was actually a couple of directors with whom it didn't end up working because the temperaments were too different, or they had approaches that didn't seem to work within the whole that we were trying to make. But at the end of the day, the 7 directors who did work on it, we all became friends, and everyone comes from a very different place. But actually, the temperaments are quite similar. Like everyone's pretty nice, and we've had some really nice times together.
I come back to the basic. Where did you think thought originate? When did the thought originate of making a film like this? I'm coming back to the basic.
Well, yeah, no, so it was when my friend, the cellist, when she played the music for me, she played another string quartet's interpretation of it, and I just thought it was such beautiful music and so powerful. And it, Joseph Haydn, I don't know if you guys are very familiar with his music, but a lot of it tends to be very kind of, it's kind of easy to listen to, and you can almost put it on in the background, or at least that's mine. I'm sure some people would disagree with me violently, but the 7 Last Words, the music is super intense because he's dealing with these ideas around like death but also about rebirth and freedom and abandonment, and so the music has this intensity to it, even though it's written in the late 18th century, that you don't really hear in a lot of music that was being written around that time, and I feel like that music really speaks to the present as well. So yeah, but to answer the question, everything comes back to that, to hearing that original piece of music for the first time, and finding it, like Salvador Dali made 7 paintings, and there's the first time it was performed, that music, it was performed in a cathedral in Spain where they blacked out all the windows, so there would just be one window open, so that as they did it, they timed it so the light from the sun would hit the bishop as he was explaining the 7 last words. It's like it's got this history of intense expression and performance. And so I wanted to just make something that would follow in line with that, being in continuity with what's come before it.
How long did it take to put it all together?
Yeah, too long. Yeah, I came up with the idea in 2010, and now we're 2019. It's not like I was working on it full time every day, but there was it was hard to get the financing because it's an unusual project, and it was very difficult, yeah, because it's not really a music project, so people who fund music projects didn't want to give money. It's not a normal film, so film people didn't really, it took a while to get the patchwork together, and it took a while to get the right directors together who all had the time and the interest and who had cool ideas and that were going to work as part of the whole. So yeah, it was a long process, but a cool process in general.
How's Goa treating you all? First visit to all that having heard previously also. What do you feel?
Is my first time in India, and I absolutely love Goa. I'm so happy to be here, and it's very inspiring to just to walk in the streets and to see the very specific kind of life that there is here. Yes, we just watched a wonderful film here in the Inox, directed and acted by just one person, an Indian film, and it was a great experience. The name of the film is I think it's like the size of a shoe.
Size 7 single slipper?
Yeah, size 7 single slipper. Yeah, that's it. Wonderful film. I recommend it.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, I think we all totally love it here. I've had the good fortune to come to India before, and I actually shot a short film in Varanasi, but it's my first time in Goa, and it's amazing, and the food is so fantastic, and everyone's so friendly, and yeah, it's great. It's really great. It's called Holika. Oh, it's actually shot in Nangaon and Barsana, north of Varanasi, but it takes place around Holi, and it's Latmar Holi, when the women from one village come to another village and hit the men with sticks. Yeah, and so I made kind of a expressionistic short film about that, violence and beauty and color.
Kaveh, you have done screen.
Oh yeah, I have no problem. I mean, the questions.
Kaveh, you have done screenplay for the film.
For this film?
Yeah.
Well, each person did their own. So I did the introduction and the conclusion of the film and one of the parts in the middle. So I wrote my screenplays for those, but everybody else wrote their own screenplay, and people had different processes. Like some people wrote quite long treatments, that were quasi-academic, and some people wrote almost nothing out and just had very kind of pure visual ideas. Everyone had their own process to get to the film that they ended up making.
Must have taken.
I mean, well, one thing that I think made something of a difference was we had the same editor for all of them, but at the same time, each director was very involved in their own editing, and the editing does change quite a bit from one to the other. But I think having one person in the background of all 7 films, that was helpful. And I think it's also a lot about, everyone was thinking about their own films in terms of the music, and the music is everywhere, so. Well, it's 7 separate films that come one, so everybody's final version is their own final version. Yeah. The brief was you have to make it based on this music, and that's it. Go. Yeah.
How's the shooting experience in Varanasi?
Completely insane. It was amazing. Well, I mean, like when I left at 4:30 in the morning on the main day of Holi in Varanasi, and I was there with my wife, and I came back, at around 2 p.m. and all my clothes were completely ripped. My Bolex had paint all over it. It was like total chaos. People were jumping all over us, trying to steal the camera, monkey. It's just wild. Yeah. Well, we shot a little bit in Vrindavan, but mostly in Nangaon and Barsana.
Any questions on Cleo?
Oh.
Yeah, well, I have a question for you. Your movie is competing for the UNESCO Gandhi Medal, right?
Yes, I just heard actually. I didn't
So
know
how
that
do you
already.
think it has projected the values of like peace and non-violence? Can you just give us a description?
Well, I think that maybe the main values of the movies are family and love, because that's what is universal about it. Everybody knows, everybody loses at a certain point family members in their life, and I think the way how to cope with that is very universal. So that's maybe one of the reasons why they saw that. That's what people tell me. And also, I think it's beautiful actually to be here with the other fellow filmmakers who want to talk about classical music, because that's also something that unites us. And in my film, the film talks about the Russian composer Rachmaninoff. And I just enjoy it so much when I'm traveling with the film and people say, like, I love Rachmaninoff, I'm playing it. I just hope that it can inspire other people to listen to this music too.
Thank you. Any more questions? So let's wind up the session. Thanks, friends. And thank you, the wonderful team of The Last 7 Words and Cleo, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was easy.
Excuse-moi.
Okay.
Aujourd'hui, c'était la projection. C'était il y a 1 heure, je pense, qu'on a projeté le film. Donc, je ne sais pas s'il
I think they're trying to take a picture of all of us.
Okay, here? Like here?
I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.